Greg, are you ready?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'll give you a bit of a brief intro of myself. I've been at Wētā Workshop for coming up 20 years or so. I started as a concept designer there, although my very first job was puppeteering a boat from Master and Commander while someone sprayed water on it, which is quite good fun. But I've been working there for many years doing concept design and working on films like King Kong, Narnia, and then District 9, where I got to do lead concept design for that. And then in recent years, I'm a bit of a video game person, although not recently, because I've got a 4-year-old boy now, so my video game time is dried up. But I've always been a huge proponent of games more than anything, and so in the last 8 years, I got to work with a company in the States called Magic Leap, and we made a new video game platform, a new spatial computing platform called the Magic Leap 1. And I headed up a team here and built Wētā Workshop's video game division, where we made a launch game for the Magic Leap 1 platform. And then the pandemic came along and put a stop to that. So right now, I've actually gone back to one of my other loves, which is graphic novels, comics. So I'm in the middle of writing and illustrating a new comic series that I call One Path. And I'm happy to show you guys a little bit of that if you like. I'll just be screen sharing directly off my Photoshop, and it's pretty much work that I've been doing in the last few days. And I have to caveat that the world of One Path is very violent, it's very adult, and does have nudity and gore. And so I've gone very quickly through and put big censor blocks through what I think is the most egregious parts of the panels. But if you see anything that's really striking, just tell me and I will stop sharing my screen. So let me see if I can share it, if that's a good idea. Share screen, how do you, oh God, I haven't done this before, so give me a second. You're probably going to see yourselves on my screen, so here we go. Oh God. It's asking all these preferences. Maybe this isn't. Maybe we should have tested this before, but it's opening all these check boxes on my new Mac. So it's.
Do you want to go to the film first, production team, while Greg sorts out what he's?
That's probably a good idea. Yeah, please.
Is that okay, Sophia?
Yeah, Teddy's jumping to it.
I'm been told off to get my headphones as well, which I'll do. That's awesome.
Thank you. Let me just see if I'm going to finish clicking the boxes here.
These silly goggles. Let's make fun of him. I love the premise for the short, Greg. Yeah, it's very clever.
Thanks. Yeah, we're trying to. There was a bunch of different videos made for the the rollout of Magic Leap. Can you guys still see me, or is it sharing my screen?
No, we can see
No,
you
we can
fine.
still see you.
We cannot see your screen though.
Yeah.
Oh, here it comes.
Whoa.
Okay,
There we
your
go.
your
Cool.
screen's coming up, all of them.
That looks great. I'll just leave that. Yeah. I'll quickly show you a little bit of what I'm up to. Let me see if I can even get down to the little panel. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see that fine.
So I'm just tootling around here at the moment. This thing on the right is a picture I'm doing for a friend of mine who's doing an exhibition, and they're doing an exhibition kind of on something that's a little bit different for me. I don't do a lot of horror, but I thought I'd do kind of a Cthulhu meets dinosaur horror thing. And so that's just a bit of fun. I'm just finishing that off now. And these images are from OnePath. And so you'll see the big black sensor bars. Again, tell me if it's not right for the audience. I've put some convenient sensor bars. I don't like the idea of costumes on these characters because it's very prehistoric and the weather's good. So I'm not sure why they'd wear clothes. So they don't. But I've been making graphic novels for a few years. I haven't done one for about 8 years, but I very much love doing them, and I love illustrating them. I don't like for myself, I'm not a traditional fan of the sort of traditional inking and penning and coloring. I really like to try and get in there and flesh out the illustrations as much as possible and make it feel like you could fall into that world. So
Yeah,
that's a little bit of that.
The color palette that you're using as well. It's really nice.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Let me finish that up. Is that still sharing?
Yeah, you are. What's the plan? Oh, there you go. It's finished.
Probably back.
Yeah. So what's the plan with that, Greg, in terms of publishing and that? Have you got like a publisher locally, or is that what's the sort of how far do you sort of plan to push it?
That's a good question. I kind of wrote the first season of it to do as a graphic novel for myself, but I imagine it as a television show as well. I'd love to do it as an animated TV show, and I have a bunch of ideas around using AI style networks like GANs and things to help me with that. As far as publishing the comic, I'm kind of very open at the moment. I've talked to a few publishers, and but I haven't made any final decisions. So.
Oh, cool.
Most publishers want an arm and a leg. They want most of the property, and it's one of those things. I don't want to give up much of it. I want to have as much control over it as possible. So, got to find the right partner, really.
You've worked on a lot of books in the past, haven't you, Greg?
Yeah. Love comics. That was kind of my passion as a kid growing up, and then games from there.
Can you tell us a bit about going from a singular artist into working at somewhere like Wētā Workshops?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, for me, it was it's all around the project. I've been working. I had a science fiction world, and I still do, that I created a massive exhibition around through the patronage of Richard Taylor and Tanya Roger, who run Wētā Workshop, and I got to build this massive science fiction world there. And because of just the ton of work I did creating books, creating illustrations, creating the exhibition, collectibles. It got to that point where a lot of people started becoming interested in doing bigger things with it, television, movies, and then video games. And as soon as someone came along sniffing who wanted to do video games, I just realized, that I need to kind of do it myself. I want to figure out how, I've never made a video game before. I don't have a background in that. I just have a background in imagination. And no other practical skills other than that. I went pretty much from high school and straight into, I went from high school to the Dole and then to a job in Wētā Workshop. I spent about 7 years on the Dole. So before Wētā Workshop, my longest job was unemployment. But was very passionate about making a game myself. I mean, who else is going to make it? And built a team of about 60 to make that game, and it was incredibly good fun. And now I've done the complete loop back again to basically being that singular artist doing stuff on my own. And I very much enjoy both. It was a massive challenge doing the big team, probably HR and just managing people's lives. That's probably one of those complicated things I find of working with a big team, which is fun, but it also it is really draining. You got to love putting yourself into that. And now, so I'm very much enjoying this new phase of my life, which forced upon me really by the pandemic, but of just focusing on the project, everything I can do with my hands on it, and kind of, I suppose it's just being a bit more selfish, really, but that's forced upon me, but I'm very grateful to be able to do it. So I have enough on my plate with my family life and my little boy and my partner, Kate. So I'm in a way slightly grateful that I don't have to look after a massive team at the moment. It's quite nice. I call the world is very prehistoric that I've created, and it's called One Path, which is the name of the main character, but that feels very much like what I've done. I've gone back into a cave. And I'm on this path, like I am a slave to the vision of this world that I'm building, and I can't think of anything else. I get up each morning super excited to do it, and so very, very different from being at that point of, like, managing a lot of people and directing big projects with large budgets. Our game would have been a 40 million odd game, something like that. Down to this, to a graphic novel where I don't even know who's going to publish it, and maybe it'll never make a dime, but that's kind of the fun of it.
In terms of the sort of the Wētā Workshop, and I guess for people that don't realise, Greg, the two distinctions between sort of Wētā Digital and Wētā Workshop, and what that synergy is, and how that dynamics works. Do they sort of work together hand in hand, or are they totally two separate entities? I know there was a lot of work done obviously during the Lord of the Rings. What's the sort of the current state with that dynamics at the moment?
They are two different companies for sure, with different cultures. I mean, Wētā Digital was born out of Wētā Workshop. It was one corner of Wētā Workshop, and then grew and grew and grew and became its own thing. And there is still symbiosis there, because we're connected by name and culture in various ways, and there's a to and fro to some degree. But yeah, they definitely are their own discrete things at this stage. So it actually takes some effort on the behalf of both companies to try and make sure there's they mesh and have a kind of, people go to and fro between them and everything. When I started at Wētā Workshop, I definitely went across to digital a lot to art direct with King Kong, with the creatures we were designing and so on. I haven't done that for a while because I haven't done a lot of film work, but I imagine that kind of stuff is still happening. I'm just a little bit in my own bubble, so I don't have my eyes on it as much.
Yeah, awesome.
Greg, the films that you've worked on, have you got a favorite? Are you allowed to have favorites?
I definitely have a favorite. It's District 9. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, good.
Yeah. I had mainly it was just working with Neil Blomkamp, who is still a close friend. The guy is an incredible visionary. Meeting him was meeting someone and just realizing a bunch about psychology and about how someone very focused can act, and how decisive. I mean, I aspire to a few people in the world, one being Roni Abovitz, who is the head of Magic Leap, who has sort of crazy generosity and crazy big vision, and Richard Taylor, who started Wētā Workshop, and his, again, massive generosity. He's like a Buddhist in a way, just very, very open and friendly, but also dreams insanely big. And then someone like Neil, who is just razor sharp focus and knows what he wants, knows what he likes. That level of conviction is just something I've always aspired to. So working on that film, it's like, oh shit, this is someone who knows what they're doing, has a vision. Is very, very cool. And I worked with a bunch of people like that, but I guess he was one person that I was in the wavelength with, who liked all the same kind of stuff. And so that film was like a chance to get a bunch of ideas I'd had out with someone who absolutely was just absorbing them, but also reflecting cool stuff back to me. So, and the film came out great. So, that's a bonus.
Yeah, he was an artist, wasn't he, Neil? Before he became a director, he was actually a 3D artist.
Yeah, that was his background, doing mainly ads, I think. Yeah.
Can you explain the skull behind you, Greg, as well? I'm sure people are wondering about this.
It's an Albertosaurus skull. It was given this by Richard Taylor, and it looks big. It is quite big, but for a bit of context, that's a T-Rex tooth. So we actually have a full-scale T-Rex at head skull at Wētā Workshop that we can see any day. And this, along with that skull that's at the workshop, was saved from going on set at King Kong. While we're making King Kong, there was a scene that Peter wanted to do with a bunch of it was called the pit scene, with all these insects, and the idea was, from our point of view, was like it's a predator trap. A bunch of dinosaurs have fallen down there. Scavengers have gone in to eat the animals that have fallen in, like dinosaurs like this, and so Peter and Richard bought a bunch of skulls from a company called Bone Clones in the States, and we were going to put them on set, but they were so beautiful, and this is like a museum quality piece. And so I pleaded with Richard to please don't send our T-Rex and the Albertosauruses onto set, because actors would be trampling over them, and they would be wrecked. And so we ended up probably costing the production a lot of money by sculpting. And also our other argument was that, well, this dinosaur isn't in the movie. This is a real dinosaur. We made our own T-Rexes, we called them V-Rexes. So let's sculpt accurate versions of those, and we'll put those in the movie. And that's what we did. So I got to save this, and then at the end of the production, Richard very kindly gifted it to me.
Awesome. I was going to ask quickly, do you know Gino from Record Press? Yeah. So
that's from Gino. He gave me that.
I was going to say he's a good mate of mine, actually, and he's for anyone that knows Gino and knows his house, it's like a little sanctuary of treats, of memorabilia, and to go there and actually get the tour from Gino is something special. And if he's watching, I'd like to say a big shout out to him. But yeah, he's a good guy.
Fantastic, yeah, an inspiration. Really, just a super gentle, lovely, generous guy too. The best, and the most talented.
Yeah.
I love that you've got a Tyrannosaurus Rex tooth just hanging around, just in case you need to pull it out for anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Greg. That's amazing stuff. Truly amazing.